Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Today we're completing chapter 4 of the Essentials of Arabic Grammar, taking a look at the Mudaf wa Mudaf Ilayhi fragment, known in English as the genitive form, one of the most commonly used fragments in sentences throughout the Quran. In the last lesson, we took a look at another commonly used fragment in the Arabic language, the adjective, as-sifa wal-mawsuf. We took a look at many different examples from the Quran and covered some additional properties of feminine words as well in the process. So let's jump right into it. To get a copy of this text, click the link in the description below. Only for a limited time, I've made it available on a pay whatever you can afford basis, the minimum amount being $1 and the maximum being whatever you feel the value of this knowledge is worth or that you have the means to contribute. You'll help me publish more free beneficial content and further my own personal studies in the process. If this is still too much, the least you can do is like and share this video so that it's able to reach others and they can benefit as well, inshallah. So jumping right into the text, I start with a basic conceptualization of the genitive form, one thing being related or ascribed to another, right? Conveying this sense of ownership or possession grammatically. Like the examples here, the teacher's pen, or the creature's color. To put it in simple terms, it's loosely translated here as the thing owned and the owner, right? That which is attributed to or in possession of another. And this is something that's not only restricted to physical objects, right? But this also applies to traits, qualities, and other things that we're going to take a look at, inshallah. So essentially what's happening here is that this grammatical construct is taking one ism and attaching it to another ism in order to specify or make it definitive. So the mudaf is an ism that pulls the ism that follows it into the state of jar, into this particular grammatical structure. So we know, for example, if I say, pass me a pen, right? Pass me a pen. It's not definitive, right? This can be any pen. Versus me saying, pass me the pen, right? Now it's definitive because I'm specifying which pen I want, right? And this is the relationship between al and tanween, like we've spoken about throughout these past lessons. Similarly, the teacher's pen is also definitive. But the difference here is that what makes it definitive is the fact that it's connected to the teacher, right? Something that is definitive, specific. So the word pen here is definitive because it's connected to the teacher, right? Now, before we complete this example and dive into some other examples as well, I think it's very important to keep in mind that depending on the context and these different grammatical nuances, like I've mentioned in the past, these things will always play a key role in translation. So depending on the context, the implications of these meanings may change. We're looking at things at a very basic foundational level. So in Arabic, it's written in the format pen of the teacher. So this is the order that it's written in, and unlike the previous fragment, it's the order that it's translated in as well. But in simple English, the teacher's pen, right? They're both one and the same. In general, day-to-day English, I don't say this pen of mine, right? Even though it's proper English, I just say my pen. So we've seen and heard the Arabic word for pen countless times now, right? The Arabic word for pen is qalam, right? Qalam. The Arabic word for teacher, right? A new word for us, al-muallim, right? Al-muallim. Then I outline the traits and states of these words when they're in this particular construct. So the mudaf is the first word in this fragment, which in this case would be qalam, right? So the mudaf never has al at the beginning, and at the end, a tanween is never clinging, right? And if you remember in the previous lessons, I mentioned that there are only specific instances where you'll find an ism that doesn't have al at the beginning or tanween at the end at the same time, right? Because as a general rule, an ism will either have al at the beginning and no tanween at the end, or tanween at the end and no al at the beginning, right? They don't go together. Here, in this case, there is no al at the beginning, no tanween at the end, right? So this is one of those specific conditions. An إضافة fragment. So the genitive form, an إضافة. Every word's default state is rafa, so I'm just going to put a dhamma here, right? So qalamu, not qalamun, not al-qalamu. It's as if the al here is hidden, right? Qalamu. The mudaf ilayhi, right, which is the word that comes after in this sequence, must have al or be definite, right? And we'll take a look at the implications of this, but it must have al or be definite. And being in the state of jar is a prerequisite, right? Prerequisite meaning this must be a condition in order for it to be a mudaf ilayh. It will always be in the state of jar. So if the first word fits the description of a mudaf and the ism after begins with al or is definite and it's in a state of jar, then we know this is an idafa fragment. So kasra at the end here. Why not kasratain? Because it has al at the beginning, right? So qalamul muallimi. So the last important note to make here is that the mudaf is always definite by association because it's attached or connected to that which is definite. So it's attributed to or in the possession of something specific or definite grammatically. So I mentioned here, rush to the good, and in this be keen, which is something that Allah Ta'ala tells us in the Quran. فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ, right? Essentially in meaning, compete with one another in good deeds, right? Outstrip each other in doing good. And in the last lesson it was mentioned, don't compete with one another in the wrong things, right? Compete with one another in doing good and outstripping others in good. Having extensive amounts of information does not entail knowledge, right? Knowledge is not an end in and of itself. Knowledge is only a means to us becoming a better version of ourselves, right? Strengthening our relationship with Allah, worshiping Allah in a more holistic manner. But there's a huge difference between knowledge and information, right? Exert yourself in positive contributions and don't be lazy in this, right? Don't be lackadaisical in it. Wal asr, right? Time is of the essence, and be mindful of Allah, Maliki Yawmiddin, the one who is in true ownership and possession of everything, who we're all returning to whether we like it or not. Maliki Yawmiddin, right? The next example here, right? One of the first examples of this that we see in the Quran, in the Fatiha. So we see here, Yawmiddin, right? Yawm, no al at the beginning, no tanween at the end, right? And the ism after, ad-din, right? Al at the beginning, so it's definite, and kasra at the end, telling us it's in the state of jar. This is clearly a mudaf wa mudaf ilayhi fragment, which raises a key point here, right? The mudaf, it doesn't matter what state it's in. It could be rafa, it could be nasab, it could be jar. The only condition is for it to not have al at the beginning and to not have tanween at the end, coupled with the fact that it has a mudaf ilayhi, which has the condition of having al at the beginning or being definite and being in the state of jar, right? Clear indication that this is a mudaf wa mudaf ilayhi fragment. Yawmiddin, the day of Deen, or the day of judgment. So we see how it's translated here, the day, even though yawm does not have al on it, right? Deen does. Again, this is because it's definite by association. But in taking a closer look at this ayah, we see here Maliki, right? No al at the beginning, no tanween at the end. We've already determined that yawm is definite. It has a kasra at the end telling us that it's in the state of jar. So this is also a mudaf wa mudaf ilayhi fragment. And this is another key note to make about the idafa fragment. The mudaf is not restricted in number. There can be many, right? The son of the mother of the teacher of the brother of the imam. That's an extreme example, but that's something that could be done, right? Here we see the master of the day of judgment, right? A clear mudaf wa mudaf ilayhi fragment. Furthermore, you just translated an entire ayah just based on knowing some small principles about this particular fragment, right? And there are many other ayat like this in the Quran. Let's take a look at the next set of ayat here, sticking with Surah Al-Fatiha, right? And we see the Basmala. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We spoke about Bismi, right? We know this is the harf jar, ba, and it's connected to ism, right? So the harf of jar, ba, is actually connected to ism, right? This word, ism. And this word has a kasra at the end, so no al at the beginning, no tanween at the end, right? Lafdul jalala right after, an ism that is of course definite, also in the state of jar, right? Telling us that this is a mudaf wa mudaf ilayhi fragment. In the name of Allah, or with the name of Allah, right? Let's take a look at the next example here. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Lillahi, harf jar, li, right? Connected to lafdul jalala, which is why it's in the state of jar. Lillahi, to Allah, right? Or for Allah. And here we see Rabbi, also in the state of jar, right? No al at the beginning, no tanween at the end. The word after, right? Al-alameen, al, so it's definite, also in the state of jar, right? The plural form of jar. So this is clearly an idafa fragment. Rabbil alameen, Lord of the worlds. Let's take a look at the next set of ayat here. Binasrillahi, harf jar, ba, right? So Nasri is in a state of jar, right? No al at the beginning, no tanween at the end, lafdul jalala after, obviously definite, and kasra at the end, telling us that it's in the state of jar, right? Clear mudaf wa mudaf ilayhi fragment. Binasrillahi, with the help of Allah, or with Allah's help. So we see here, wa innahu li hubbil khayri la shadid. Li hubbi, harf jar, and it's ism, no al at the beginning, no tanween at the end. The ism after, al-khayr, has al at the beginning, kasra at the end, telling us that it's in the state of jar. So this is clearly a mudaf wa mudaf ilayhi fragment. As a literal translation, for the love of good, right? Referring to the human being. We see here this lam of emphasis, right? That is coming with the harf inna. So the lam of tawkeed, or the lam of emphasis, only comes with the harf inna, right? And as I've mentioned, there are other types of lam that are used throughout the Quran. Some of them we've covered, some of them we haven't yet, right? Let's take a look at these last two ayat here. وَيُرِيكُمْ آيَاتِهِ فَأَيَّ آيَاتِ اللَّهِ تُنْكِرُونَ. So we may remember this word here, ayat, right? The plural of ayah, right? Feminine plural. Normally it would have tanween at the end, but it doesn't have tanween at the end. It doesn't have al at the beginning, and lafdul jalala is after, right? Again, definite, and also in the state of jar. Clear mudaf wa mudaf ilayhi fragment, right? The ayat of Allah, the signs of Allah, or Allah's signs. Now in the next chapter we'll be looking at all of the pronouns in the Arabic language comprehensively. But so far, while we've been translating, we've come across a bunch of different pronouns. And to this point, we know that pronouns are asma as well. Right? A pronoun is an ism. We also know that whenever they're attached to any word, they're either in the state of nasb or jar, as opposed to when they're detached, right? When they're on their own, its default state is rafa, right? And we saw how this played out with the harf of nasb, and we saw how this played out with the harf of jar. So here is another extremely important note for you in this lesson. Whenever a pronoun is attached to an ism, it automatically becomes an idafa fragment. And so we see here ayatihi, right? Same as ayatillah. So we see ayati, no al at the beginning, no tanween at the end, and the attached form of the pronoun huwa is at the ending, right? Clear idafa fragment. His ayat, his signs, right? Referring to Allah. إِنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَأَوْلَادُكُمْ فِتْنَةٌ وَاللَّهُ عِنْدَهُ أَجْرٌ عَظِيمٌ. We see here similarly, أَمْوَالُكُمْ, right? So kum, the attached form of the pronoun antum, you all. Amwal is the broken plural of the word mal, right? Money or possessions. So amwalu, no al at the beginning, no tanween at the end, and a pronoun is attached to it, automatically an idafa fragment. Your wealth, or the wealth of all of you, right? Wa awladukum, same thing here, right? Awlad, the plural of walad, your children. No al at the beginning, no tanween at the end, and a pronoun is attached to it, right? This is most definitely an idafa fragment. So your wealth, your children. The same as saying the wealth of you all, the children of you all. So you'll find at the end of this chapter a chart with words that the grammarians list as always giving the meaning of an idafa whenever they're present before an ism. In some of these words, the construct is apparent in its meaning, and in others it's not. So this is just an extra benefit to help you. I'm not going to cover them in full here, but essentially anytime they appear, the ism that follows it will automatically be put in a state of jar, and it will have this grammatical construct implied. For example, one of the words in this chart that we all know, subhana, right? Subhanallahi, right? Lafdul jalala, always in a state of jar, right? Another word on this chart, kullu, right? Like kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. Nafsin in a state of jar. So this is just some extra knowledge that will hopefully benefit you as you're reading through the Quran and other classical texts, inshallah. And with that, we complete this lesson. Let me know in the comments where you're at with your Arabic learning journey. Are you a beginner? Do you have some previous experience? Let me know what your goals are. What are you hoping to study? What are you hoping to learn, right? And inshallah, I'll see you in the next video. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi وصحبه وسلم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم.